In this SMC outlook, I'm sharing my exact trade plan for the DXY, the euro, the pound, and also gold. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Justin Bennett, Forex trader since 2007, full-time trader since 2011. And as always, none of this is financial advice because it is for educational purposes only. So let's go ahead and get right into it, looking at the DXY here on the hourly time frame. So for now, markets are relatively quiet, and that makes sense because we are in that mid to late December with, Christmas next week and everything. So markets are going to be pretty slow. They have been kind of slow. They will continue to be kind of slow going to next week as we enter those illiquid conditions. So that is something to certainly bear in mind. Now, looking at the DXY here, I mentioned this to VIP members in Discord last week. We talked about this, but technically we had a breakdown here. Okay, we had an hourly close below this low way back here. And the reason this matters, at least on the hourly, is because technically that is a break of structure, okay, or change of character in this case on the hourly time frame, because this back here was our last external low on the way up. Okay, so because this was our last external low, the hourly close below here technically gives us an hourly change of character. Now you can see here on the 4-hour time frame that we did not close below, but what's interesting here on the 1-hour time frame is that even though we had the close below here, what we got after this was instead of just pulling back into this region and then continuing lower, we actually had the DXY taking out this high. So because of that, we actually had a change of character over here. So since that time, we have seen higher highs and higher lows from the DXY. And one area that I mentioned to VIP members in Discord as well last week was this one down here. This was actually a 4-hour FVG. So you can see this right back here on the 4-hour. You can see that off of this high right here, we had the DXY come right back into this area, actually sweep this, and then we got the bounce. Now, another area on Friday that I also pointed out in Discord, and this is the advantage of being in Discord as a VIP member, was this area down here. Once again, 4-hour FVG right here, following the close above. Okay, so the market bounced right from here. Now, obviously, the market is also pulling back here with a few hours left in Friday's session. But if you were trading this intraday on Friday, then that, of course, right here from this area down here up here to the high, that, of course, would have been a nice little trade here on the dollar. Okay, now, structurally speaking, though, if we go back to the hourly time frame, this right here is, bullish, at least short term. However, there is a case to be made, though, that all of this right here is internal. Okay, so in other words, this high up here is our last external high, and this is our external low at the moment. So there is the case to be made that really the DXY hasn't really done much, because if all of this is internal through here, then this could just be corrective, okay, within this larger downtrend that we've seen. Now, we also have a daily fair value gap up here at 98.95. So I discussed this in the last SMC outlook as well. If you go into here to the daily, you can see that off of this low right back here, this could become a magnet, so to speak, for the DXY to come up here and want to test this area and mitigate that FVG, fully rebalance this imbalance from this candle, and then potentially from there we get a rotation lower. Now, one other area to keep in mind is that you can see where this wick here on Friday, we are coming up here into this resistance area. But as far as liquidity goes, this up here, okay, as far as an imbalance, this is still the one to watch here in my opinion. Now, whether we can see the DXY climb up here next week, knowing that we are going into the holidays, that is yet to be seen. And I really think, though, that, just kind of my 2 cents on this, that right now is a time to really take a step back from the markets. If you are going to trade, do it with a lower position size. All just my opinion, of course, not financial advice. But really a time of year, though, to either step back, maybe refine some of your strategies, take a look at your performance data, and make some changes there, but really not a time to be trading too heavily right now. But structurally speaking, again, we do have a little bit of bullish momentum here from the DXY. Again, the argument that can be made is that all of this is really internal to this larger external structure. Now, one last thing here before we go on to the euro, and I talked about this before as well, but you can see that off of this high up here, if we drag out our fibs to find premium and discount and also that OTE, which I have made a video on OTE that goes into this in detail. I will link to that at the top of this video, so check that out when you have a spare moment. But this up here, this green box here is OTE. So this is between the 62 and 79%. This area up here is considered a premium. Okay, so all of this up here is premium, and then your OTE is right here. Now, this also aligns with that daily FVG. So again, this is going to be kind of the pocket to keep an eye on for the DXY. And you can see that quite clearly back here on this move lower, right? This was a big imbalance here for the market. So we could see, again, the DXY come up here and at least rebalance this region over the next couple of weeks. Now, the only thing that is going to turn this market bullish longer term is if we take out this high up here, this external high. Okay, so it would have to close above this external high to really flip things bullish again within this larger trend, because obviously you can see here recently we have been very bearish here for the DXY. So if this is our external high, then again, all of this here could be corrective to the point where we get a retest up here and a continuation of this. And the only thing that's going to change that is going to be this external high up here. Now, I will tell you though, knowing that OTE can often signal an early reversal. Okay, so let's run through this scenario as a hypothetical, okay, just in case. If we do see the DXY here over the next couple weeks, come up here and close above the upper band of this OTE and find acceptance up here on the hourly. And I'm talking several hourly closes above here, really finding acceptance above this, then that's probably an early indication that we're going to get a change of character and a close above this external high. So in my opinion, right, bottom line here is looking at that daily FEG right here at 98.95. Really, this is the area that sellers have to protect. Any acceptance above here is going to potentially turn the DXY bullish, all right? So for now, all of this is internal and all of this is corrective, but that of course could change. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the EURUSD. And just like we would expect, this is pretty much the inverse of the DXY. So what we saw last week, I mentioned this to members, but I did get short on this market through here. Okay, and I explained that to members, and my stop loss was well above this area back here. This was actually a 4-hour FEG going into that ECB decision. So my stop loss was above this area and my target being down here in this area. Okay, this void back here, this unmitigated daily FEG as well. So for now, I am still in the trade. We will see how this goes, but technically speaking, this is all either, okay, let me explain this in simple terms here. This is either internal structure, okay, for the pullback, or this is the start of an external low. Now, the only way that this becomes an external low is if we come up here and take out this high, which would of course start with taking out highs like this as well. Okay, but for now, this is starting to look a little bit bearish here for the EURUSD. Okay, a little fatigued. However, like the DXY though, I would really argue that this down here is going to be the last confirmed external low, and this up here is your external high. So all of this for me right now is still internal. And the reason it's internal is these lows back here, the only way that you have an external low develop is if you take internal liquidity, okay? So we didn't do that down here. Now we did recently do that here, okay? So we did technically take internal liquidity, but again, the only way that this becomes an external low down here is if we come up here, start taking out these highs, and really ultimately take out this high up here. Until that time, internally, okay, structurally, this starts to look a little bit bearish, at least short term for the euro, to the point that we could get that push down here into this low here, and really ideally, this area down here, this imbalance for the euro, down here around really 116.60 up to about 116.80 or so. Okay, now again, one advantage to being in the Discord group as a VIP member is that this level right here, this 15-minute FEG, I actually talked about this on Friday before the market came into it. So you can see that right back here, we had a 15-minute FEG. We also had these highs back here, which you can see here during the Asia session. We actually had liquidity building above here, so it made sense to come up here and take that out as soon as New York opened. And just to show you too, this is actually Discord here. This is where I share my ideas throughout the day. You can see here, this was the post I made before the euro came up here, right there at that 117.36 level with the arrow pointing to it and literally telling members before it happened that this was the area to watch for a reaction, all right? And sure enough, we did get a nice little reaction. So just like with the DXY, with that 4-hour FEG that filled, this right here would have been a nice little trade here on Friday. And really, with these conditions right now too, if you're looking for those big long moves that last for 100 pips or whatever, this is going to be tough because markets are very tight right now going into the holiday season. So again, nice little trade off that level if you had taken it. And structurally speaking, now let's talk about this for a moment because the euro is kind of interesting in the sense that we did get, if you look back here, this was really our last external high, which by the way too, in the last video I made, this was our unmitigated 4-hour FEG back here that I mentioned. And you can see where this now has been mitigated. Okay, so we came up here and tested that 4-hour FEG from back here in that area. So really nice there. Now, technically the euro did actually flip bullish on the 4-hour and daily time frame. So if we look back here at this high, right, this was technically the last external high before this break of structure on the way down. So we had the break of structure through here. This was the external high, and you can see where we have closed above. Okay, so technically speaking, right, this right here is bullish for the euro. So even if we get a pullback down here into this pocket for the euro, technically speaking, we do have a bullish change of character on the 4-hour and also daily time frame. So that's something to be aware of here as well. So don't get too bearish on the euro and the pound and everything else. Even though it's starting to look a little bit top heavy, don't be getting bearish on these markets just yet because we do technically have it taken out this high back here and given us that bullish change of character on the 4-hour and daily. Now, looking at the hourly though, you can see where we did get actually a change of character off of this low here. Okay, so we had a break above this. However, again, as I mentioned with the DXY, all of this, in my opinion, is internal. So you look at this back here, this was internal, this was internal. So all of this right now, in my opinion, this is the last confirmed external low. This is the external high up here. So we're still looking at a case where we could be looking at the euro pulling back here into OTE. So from the low down here, up here to the high, right? You've got this pocket down here, and look how this lines up with this imbalance. Okay, so we had displacement out of this area, which is fine. However, we do have an imbalance here. Markets tend to rebalance imbalances. So this is still the area I'm watching for the euro, and a move down here followed by a bullish change of character on the low time frames could offer a buying opportunity. Okay, so that's something to watch. But again, we are in the holiday season, so just bear that in mind that markets are going to be pretty illiquid going forward. Okay, so let's take a look here at the pound, which similar situation for the pound, although this is a little bit different because in this case, I could argue that this low down here is external and we did have a close below it. And what I mean by that is you can see here on the hourly that this was our high up here. Okay, now we came down, and the thing about this low, the difference with this low versus the euro is that we actually took internal liquidity. Okay, this was an internal low, this was an internal low. We took both of those, and then we formed a new break of structure with that hourly close. So this hourly close above gives us a break of structure. This is confirmed because we took internal liquidity and formed an external low. Now, when we did that, that became our external low to watch, and we got a close below, giving us a change of character. This is the first time that the pound has done this within this trend, okay? Now, again, we are in the holiday season, so this could be a little bit less significant than it otherwise would be, just because liquidity is drying up. So that's important to understand here when you're looking at these markets. And I'm in no hurry to make any kind of bold calls on these markets just because we are in mid to late December. But if this holds up, then we could get a pullback here from the pound. However, at the same time, again, when the market goes sideways like this, holiday season, illiquid conditions, again, I'm not in a hurry to make any bold calls here. So one thing to be aware of on the pound is that if we were to get the pullback, you do have these single prints down here in this region. You have this large imbalance back here on this massive displacement we saw. And even though we came back here into part of it, you still got this area down here as an imbalance that could be potentially a target if we get the market rotating lower following this change of character. But again, I really have to stress though that I am in no hurry to make any bold moves here with the pound just going sideways and also that holiday season. Now let's wrap up with gold, which has been pretty sideways. Okay, it has been moving higher. We've had higher highs and higher lows. Okay, buyers are clearly in control. However, the challenge for gold, at least for me, is that it hasn't really pulled back into areas that interest me. And in other words, I can't justify buying when this down here is the last external low. Okay, this down here, and this is now our external high. So you look at this here, and I'll explain here in a moment why this is your external low, but you look at this here and everything up in this area has been at the 50% or higher. So we've been in premium, which means I can't consider buying. The market would have to drop down here into this region for me to consider a buy. And it really hasn't done that. We've just had the market just kind of churning up here, carving higher lows and really going sideways for the most part. Now, the reason that I'm calling this down here still as the last confirmed external low and not anything through here. And this is where, again, traders get kind of caught up in this because they see this structure right here. They see this break here, okay, and they call this a break of structure, and therefore that this down here is your external low. And the issue I have there is that if you're calling this an external low, is that we did not, after we made this low, we did not come down here and take this out. Now, you could argue that this low right here, these internal lows, that we did take this out, okay? But on this pullback, what I want to see from a market when it gives me this internal pullback like this is I want to see that liquidity get taken again before we get a break of structure. And we simply did not see that in this case. So it's very hard for me to call this external down here when, again, you look at the low down here and we took internal liquidity several times, right, on this move lower. So for me, when I look at this chart and I see this area down here, this imbalance, right, it's very hard for me to justify. In fact, it's impossible for me to look for buys up here above this area just because we do have this imbalance down here in this region. And again, in my opinion, this is really the external structure that I'm looking at. Okay, so if we were to get gold over the coming weeks, coming down here to sweep these lows down here and dropping down here into this imbalance, then that could be very interesting for a lower time frame change of character to get long. All right, but without that though, there really isn't a lot for me to do here on gold because I can't short this market with the uptrend, but I also can't buy with the market just hanging out here in premium. All right, so that's it for today's video. If it was helpful, be sure to subscribe to the channel and also check out this video right here. Enjoy your weekend, and I will talk to you again next week.